Hey, in this video I'm going to show you my top 21 images from 2021. Hey there, Jay Cohen here. I am a photographer in Westchester County, New York, just north of New York City, and I am really pleased today to share with you my top 21 images from 2021. 2021 was a pretty crazy year for a lot of us. I didn't do quite as much traveling as I would have liked. You'll see a lot of the images are from the greater New York area where I live, but I did get out a little bit and you'll see those. I won't spend too much time on each image, but you'll get a sense of the background and why I chose the shot I chose. So for the first one, it's actually a shot of New York City, and I visited one of the best places to shoot the New York skyline. It's actually in Bayonne, New Jersey, and I got this shot where there was a great balance between the ambient light from the sky and the lights from the buildings. And you see the Statue of Liberty is lit up as well, and I got some color in the sky. This was a pano, and so I think it was 5 different shots stitched together. But I shoot the New York City skyline quite a bit. This was one of the better images I got this year. The next image actually is also in New York City. It's in Queens, New York, a place called Jacob Riis Park. It's a beach. And in this image, I broke one of the rules of photography. I intentionally overexposed the image. What I was trying to do was to create a very soft, ethereal, dreamlike feel to the image, which I think I got. This is a shot that I like, a little different for me, but certainly a shot that I like. Earlier in the year, in the fall, I went to Central Park, which is a great place to shoot any time of year, but certainly in the fall. And I was able to get this picture of Bow Bridge. This is one of the classic spots in Central Park, but just a combination of great colors, a great light hitting the bridge and the leaves created this really vibrant picture. At the start of the fall, I was trying to get out and do some foliage shooting. I went to a spot it's in New York State. It's right by the Delaware River, called Hawk's Nest. It's actually a road that is really windy and curvy, and it's on the edge of a cliff. But if you find the right position, you get a shot down the road of those curves, and I got this shot of these car trails coming up the road, or down the road, I should say. It was a tricky shoot because the fog kept coming in and out, but it was a lot of fun, and I really do like this image. During the summer, I was out on Long Island visiting family, and I was shooting just at the beach, trying to get some shots, and I was experimenting with some handheld shots with a little bit of a longer exposure. I want to say it was about half a second or so. And using a little bit of camera movement as well, I was able to capture this shot, which again is sort of soft, ethereal, dreamlike, and picks up some nice colors that were reflecting from the sky as well. You know, I do get into New York City quite a bit, and I've shot many of the kind of key buildings and landmarks. There's a new spot in New York City called the Little Island, which I've been there, but I went back early in the morning to get this shot with the sun rising actually behind me, but bouncing off those clouds. This was a long exposure, so you had that nice smooth water, you got some cloud movement. This was a lot of fun to do this shoot, and I think I captured a newer landmark in New York City in a fairly unique way. Another landmark in New York is actually at the airport, at JFK Airport. It is the TWA terminal. It dates back to the late 50s, early 60s. Eero Saarinen was the architect, very famous structure. And I had to get to the top of a parking garage and shoot down to capture this image. I went inside as well and took some shots inside. It's fantastic. If you do get to New York and you're at JFK Airport, make sure you stop by this terminal. So in August, we dropped our son off in college. Fortunately for us, he goes to school in Southern California. So we took a couple of extra days and went to Santa Barbara. And right by where I was staying, there was this pier at the beach, and there was a foggy morning while we were there. So I went out and got this very minimalistic shot. I guess it was a long exposure, where you really just see the pier and everything else fades off because of the fog. So I processed it in black and white, but I love that contrast and I love the simplicity. While we were in Santa Barbara, I drove up into wine country. Pretty close. It was only about a 40-minute drive. Got there early in the morning. There was also some fog in the air as well. I had a really soft feel to it. And I happened to be driving by and I saw these horses up on a hill. And so I stopped and got this shot of these three horses lined up pretty perfectly. But I also liked the quality of the light and the color. Again, very soft. Almost like gave it like kind of a movie-like feel to me. Right by my house is a famous river, the Hudson River. And I'm over there quite a bit shooting, usually at sunset, because I'm on the east side of the river, so facing west, I get nice sunsets. And there's this great lighthouse, the Tarrytown Lighthouse. And I went there one night and I just got this fantastic sunrise right by the Tarrytown Lighthouse. This is one of my favorites, so I figure I'd pop that one up. While I was out on Long Island, one of my trips out there, I did go out to Montauk, and there's this great pier called Navy Pier that I was able to shoot. And I lucked out with just a fantastic sky, so I got this shot while I was out there. This next shot was also out on Long Island. This is in East Hampton. There's this one spot at Main Beach in East Hampton where there's these pilings in the ocean, and that night there happened to be a very dark sky. I think there was a storm approaching, and so I went out there, did a long exposure, and captured this minimalistic shot of these pilings, but the sky really made it, and the long exposure of course smoothed out that water quite a bit. This is about a 3-minute exposure, so it was a long exposure, but well worth it. Sometimes on a Sunday morning I love to go to New York City and shoot because there's no traffic and I can find a place to park. Simple as that. And I generally don't get tickets when I park. And so I went all the way downtown one morning and shot this this intersection on, I guess it's Front Street in Manhattan. And you look straight up and these buildings sort of converge very nicely. Again, using the long exposure, I was able to capture the cloud movement above. I had to be patient for this one, but it worked out pretty well. While I was downtown that same morning, I was looking around. I'm always keeping my eyes open. And I just saw this really cool scene where the cross from the top of a church was reflected in a more modern building. And I shot it, not knowing if it would be any good, but I got it on my computer and I really liked it. So it made the list as well. One of the trips I did do last year was a cross-country drive from California to New York. I drove my son's car across the country. Unfortunately, he drives a 2016 Kia Soul. So it wasn't the most comfortable drive, but I made a photo journey out of it. I spent a lot of time on Route 66, which is just a classic spot to shoot. And you have some older, smaller towns that frankly have seen better days, but they're real classic. But they speak to an era that is really stuck in the past. And I just thought this image of a vacuum sales and service building really epitomized this looking backwards. It has a historical feel to it. As I made my way across the country, I stopped in a lot of small towns, and there are a ton of old hotels on Route 66. This was one that really caught my eye. It was empty, as you can tell, but I love the simplicity and the symmetry of the image. The colors were fantastic, so this one I included in the list. Earlier in the year, actually in a visit to California, seeing our son, we did a trip to San Diego, and I did a day trip from there out to some sand dunes out in the desert in California. It was a really windy day. It made it a really challenging shot, but the sand dunes were just beautiful. My favorite shot of the sand dunes was this one where there was this old grass, sticking up out of the sand, just perfectly catching the light. And so I shot this one, processed it in black and white. This was definitely my favorite shot of the afternoon, but there were a ton of good shots, so it was really fun being out there. While we were in San Diego, I did some shots along the beach at sunset, and I lucked out when there was a surfer that was walking by. I made him walk by again to capture this shot, but there's a real surf culture in Southern California, and I just love the balance of this image with the sun setting behind this unknown surfer. I never got his name, unfortunately. So we did get a fair amount of snow in the Northeast this past year, last winter. And after one snowstorm, I drove up to Dutchess County, New York. That's in the Hudson Valley. And I got this shot of a barn up on a hill. But the snow was very soft. It had great light from a rising sun. And this brilliant red barn really popped against that white snow. And the fence really helps as well, adding some contrast and balance to the scene. So I really like this one. Also, one of my trips to New York City, this is in Queens, to Coney Island. This is a classic location and a great place to photograph. I shot along, there's a famous boardwalk there. I did a lot of shots along the boardwalk, but one of the more famous locations is Nathan Hot Dog, and it's just a classic shot. Luckily, I was there early on a weekend morning. No one was around, and so I got this shot at Coney Island. Last shot is Phoebe. This is our dog. I was really practicing some of my portrait work and lighting in my makeshift studio in our basement. And my wife was sick of modeling for me, and so I popped Phoebe up on a stool and got this shot of her. She was not the most cooperative model, but I did get this one shot of Phoebe, which I really like. So that rounds it out. That's the top 21 in 21. Again, if you like these videos, make sure you do subscribe. I hope we have a fantastic 2022. My plan is to travel a lot more and take some great images and document them along the way. And I hope to share that with you. Until next time.